Good day, Hebrew family. Today is Wednesday, the 3rd day of November 2021. I hope you're all healthy and COVID-free today. I hope your family is also healthy and COVID-free, and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food and shelter and clothing are being met. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field trying to save lives. Blessings also upon those that pick up garbage for us, keep our places and our streets clean. Blessings upon those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on those trying to deliver, trying to help, trying to rescue, trying to preserve, trying to recover babies, toddlers, boys and girls, teenagers, and adults from human trafficking, from sex slavery, from prostitution, from child prostitution, from pornography, from child pornography, from pedophilia and child molestation. Blessings upon the adults, the people that are trying to rescue human beings, save human beings, deliver human beings, recover human beings from these abominable, hateful, and destructive things. And double curses on those that do these things and support these things. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. 600,000 men, women, and children on the streets of the United States of America today, and millions around the world in even worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom, and double blessings also on those trying in even small ways to help such ones in these unfortunate situations. Today, we're talking from Raw Hebrew Relationships, and I am Raw Hebrew Remnant, discussing marriage and polygamy, for part 2 today. Now, a couple things. The last time we talked, I talked about the biblical marriage as opposed to marriage today. Now, I want to also say at the beginning, you see some remnants of the biblical marriage that's left, and that's all it is remnants. It's not the full thing, and we'll discuss more of that in a second. But you see remnants. For example, generally speaking, I think you all agree that when a couple, a man and woman get together and they decide we're now serious. We're now seriously thinking about, becoming one as an item for good. Generally, they'll want to introduce each other to each other's family. Generally, the parents, if they are available. But that's generally what happens. When she's bringing him over to meet her parents, or he's bringing her over to meet his mother or his parents, that's when they decide it's serious. Now, that has its roots in the Bible because, again, in the Bible, the two families would get together before this couple come together to agree that they would be married. Now, today is different because people have already probably more than likely have had sex already by the time they're bringing them to the parents. This is, so it's a little backwards. But you see the remnants of the parental or family involvement. So there are some remnants that you have left. You have also a wedding reception today. A reception is generally after they say vows, which are not biblical, but they say vows and they become man and wife officially in the eyes of the state. And that's what you have, a state-sponsored marriage right now, because that's where you sign marriage license paperwork, which determines who gets your benefits for your health coverage mostly and other things, but that's one of them. So you'll have a reception after that, after they sign the documents and after they have made the vows. In the Bible, it's a marriage feast. Again, it's before they come together. There are no vows. These are where two families have agreed and two individuals have agreed that they're going to become one in the marriage relation. And then there are witnesses that see them go into a room or into a house or into an apartment or somewhere by themselves where they know those two people are going to have sex. In fact, often in the Bible, they have what they call the tokens of the woman's virginity. Again, because in the Bible, if a woman wasn't a virgin when a man went in unto her, she could be stoned. That's why when Miriam, the mother of Messiah, was found to be with child and Joseph had not had her, he said he wanted to put her away privily and not make her a public example. That's what he was talking about, because she could be stoned for that. Okay, she could be stoned for that. But then the angel came to him, as we know, and said, don't worry about taking the wife because she's conceived of the Spirit, okay? I know that's hard for people to believe. Even Israelites don't believe that, but that's what the word plainly says. But anyway, aside from that, turn here. Hopefully we get better light. But aside from that, the marriages are really different today than in the Bible. But I wanted to discuss today now, first of all, polygamy is not a sin in the Bible. Somebody asked, is it a sin? Period, not a sin. Sin is going against Yah's law or his statutes and judgments. And in fact, he made provision for more than one wife in the statutes and judgments. And let me read that for you. That's Deuteronomy chapter 21. Deuteronomy chapter 21. I'm going to begin at verse 15. Deuteronomy chapter 21, beginning at verse 15. If a man have two wives, this is the book of the law. If a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, so in other words, he favors one of his two wives over the other, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, if the firstborn son be heir hers that was hated, then it shall be when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which was indeed the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the son of the hated for the firstborn by giving him a double portion of all that he hath. For he is the beginning of his strength, and the right of the firstborn is his. So again, he making provision for a man to have two wives by telling him a situation and inheritance. Okay. But he also said in Deuteronomy 17, which we won't go into, that even a king should not multiply wives, because he says that they will have strange women and they will draw them away from the Most High, which is what Solomon did. So he really made provision for these things. But that just goes to show you that in the Bible, polygamy is not a sin. It's not a sin. So if it's not a sin, the question would rightly be asked, why don't more people do it today, right? Well, number one, I mentioned the subject of marriage licenses, so that within the United States, you have to have a license to get married. That's state laws, right? Now, in the Bible, marriage is just a man having sex with a woman, and that's the only man she's having, and he's providing for her food, shelter, and clothing. Matter of fact, let me show you that. Exodus chapter 21. Exodus chapter 21. Exodus 21. Okay, Exodus 21. I'm going to start at verse 7. Exodus 21, verse 7. If a man sell his daughter to be a maid servant, she shall not go out as the men servants do. If she please not her master, who hath betrothed her or covenanted to marry her to himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. To sell her unto a strange nation, he shall have no power, seeing that he hath dealt deceitfully with her. And if he have betrothed her unto his son, he shall deal with her after the manner of daughters. And if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall he not diminish. So in this case, he's going to continue to provide as a husband her food, her raiment, and of course, her roof. That goes without saying. In the Bible, when a woman got divorced from a man, the man was doing the divorcing, and she went back to live with her parents. That's how that worked. Okay. Now, the question again, why doesn't people do this in relation today? Even if, okay, so let's assume you can't get a marriage license in the state, but you're having more than one woman and they all agree. That's another thing. They all agree that they're going to be your wives. Why don't men have two wives today? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Number one, first off, people are not mature enough. I'm just going to say it. People are not mature enough to be married today. A lot of people. And what do I mean by that? There's already, I mentioned this before, disrespect between the men and the women. Either the woman's being disrespectful to him or he is being disrespectful to her. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. One of the reasons is people are not being raised properly. See, in the Bible, there was a culture in Israel. There was a culture of respect between children and parents, and between parents being raising children and the children taking care of the parents. There was a culture there. But in the modern place in which we in, that's not no culture no more. You have children raising children. You have single parents raising children, generally women raising children. Okay. And so you don't have the same level of respect. There's a lot of broken hearts, a lot of broken families, a lot of anger, and a lot of disrespect. Because a lot of people are married before they really are ready to be married. People think of being married because I have this feeling, this strong feeling for this other individual. And therefore, I want to be with this individual. This individual is what they call it now, my soulmate. And we want to be together. At a divorce rate that's exceeding 50% right now, you can obviously see that's not enough. That's not enough. Okay. You got to have principles of respect. So number one reason you're not going to see something like this most time in here. And if you do see it, it's usually some young cat that happened maybe inherited his grandmama's house or did something to gain some money so he can afford to take care of women, but he's too immature. He think he running a harem. That's not what the Bible marriage is about. Okay. There's got to be a respect, especially from the man to the woman, but also, see, in the Bible, it was automatic. The woman was going to respect her husband. In the Bible, it was mostly husband had to learn to respect their wives because they treated them second class. And so that's why the Bible show us examples of men that respect to the women. The women is looked at as an example of the nation. Okay. The body of Messiah is a bride. Okay. So the woman is looked upon, if you're going to be right with it, she got to be having some honor, some dignity, some respect. But today, the way this women's liberation movement has taken hold from 50 years ago, and all of these issues women keep bringing up, especially the design is to attack men, particularly the black man, to attack him. And then you have society trying to crush him, trying to put him, 1 in 4 black men have been arrested at some point, including myself, so you have that. And then, of course, them being paid less. You have all of these and many other factors that contribute to his destruction. And they trying to even put his woman against him. And that's also another reason you have a lot of anger. You have a lot of disrespect. You have a lot of people that's really not ready to be married. Now, let's assume you're already married. Now, it's too late, right? You say, brother, I already got married. I'm with this woman. I'm with this man already. What do I do now? There is such a thing. See, I'm talking to the believers in the Most High. He has a spirit. If you don't know how to be respectful, he can teach you how to respect your spouse. How to start from now, learning respect. Even if your spouse is, in your eyes, being difficult to respect, that's also an exercise for you to pray on, for you to ask for wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. Have the wisdom to ask the Most High what you should do, how this could work. Okay? That's important. If you're a sister, understand what your man is dealing with out here. Don't believe this media hype. A man is a man and a woman's a woman. You're not anatomically the same. Therefore, you are not the same. You have two hearts. Both of you have hearts. Both of you have red blood. But he's a man, you're a woman. You have to understand what he's dealing with out here. Have respect for that. Man should be honoring the woman. Have respect for her. Understand what she's dealing with as a woman. We should be really making each other a subject of study as to how we can help. Too often, we don't study each other. We don't know each other that well. We don't understand each other's background, where we coming from. And I'll give you a quick personal story. So, it was probably about 15 years into my marriage with my wife. We had a big fight. I was already under stress because I was really raising 4 children. My wife was a homemaker. I was on straight commission. I was always stressed. Okay. And so there were other things going on that compounded that in our household. One night, I would go to the store. So I'm going to the store. Do you want anything? And she would say, I want X, Y, and Z. Okay. Now, if they didn't have one of those things, I try to get something else because they didn't have it or I didn't get it. And I would come back and she would say something like this, you should have. And say it in a voice like that, you should have. Now, that in and of itself shouldn't be enough to mess with anybody's mind. But in my state that I was in the stress that I was feeling, one night I snapped. And let me just explain this. I promised my mother, after watching my father beat her up for years, that I would never touch a woman. And I never have. I would never hit a woman because of my promise to my mother. So I never touched my wife like that, but I could yell though. And my tongue could be sharp. And I let her have it. She got mad, packed a bag, and left. She left a note when she did it. Now, my background is my mother once did that to my father. Packed a bag and left because he hit her. But what happened, the way I looked at it as a child is I looked like she abandoned me because he used to hit us too. And she just left us with him. And she did that a couple of times. And in my mind, little child, that's the way I received it, like she was abandoning us to let us stay with him and get beat up. So when my wife did that, I got so mad. I didn't even read the note. I didn't even read the letter. I just burned it and I left the ashes on her dresser. And then I got mad. When she came, I didn't act like I didn't even see her. I was so mad. I was so boiling. Y'all don't know. Maybe you do. At that time, there was a pastor, and in my 30 years in a Christian church, he was the only real pastor that I ever met. I respect him. To this day, I'm not in the Christian church anymore, and I still respect him because he was real. He called me. That's a real pastor. He called me at my job, at my office, and he talked to me, and he said, tell me about your parents. And when I told him, he understood. I didn't even understand at the time why that would snap me. And then he explained it to my wife. And then we came back together. And again, during all this, I was very boiling mad, I could tell you, but I was still praying. I was praying even that I was mad. I thought she was wrong, but I came to the Most High and I said, help me see. Help me see. Help me be a better husband. I said that. Even though I felt she was wrong, I still said that. I would consistently do that. So when I got home that day, she apologized. That was the first thing that broke me. When she said she was sorry, that caused the anger to just really go. Then she said, when I talked to Pastor so-and-so, he explained your background. And he explained, and then I also said I was sorry because I didn't know that was in my heart that would cause me to react like that. I had to learn about myself. And over the course of the marriage, we both realized we had to study each other. Understand what makes each other tick. Really, we should have did that before we got married. And if you're contemplating marriage, you really need to do that. All people are complex. And if you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you're going to spend the rest of your life learning about that person. Okay. Learning what they like, what they don't like, learning what ticks them off, learning. Now, unfortunately, in this day and age in which we live, some people use that learning against the spouse to hurt them. My mother and father did that to each other. And I have to say, I did it to girlfriends and I did it to people too. Had to learn to stop doing that. My wife also. So we learn to not use things that we knew about each other against each other, but try to use information to help each other, to be a help, to be a helpmeet, to be a support, to show respect and love. So if you're in a situation now, and that's why you don't see polygamy today, there's not enough respect, there's not enough understanding, there's not enough unselfishness for that to happen today. It will be a disaster today, most of the time. I've not seen a successful one yet. Well, that's not true. I've seen one. Okay. And I've seen a lot of them, but there's not been, because the spirit today is not such. The women are not trained properly. The men are not trained properly. And then coming together is a project in and of itself, as I'm explaining to you now. Okay. So first thing, if you're in a situation right now and you're married, learn, take the time. That spouse that you married, learn about them. What makes them tick? What was their childhood like? What were their parents like? What atmosphere were they brought up in? What makes them what makes them? And y'all should do it with each other. And you should do it with prayer so that you can learn to be a support. That's what you want, to be a support. See, love at first sight don't really exist. You can connect at first sight now. You could be attracted at first sight, and spirits can touch at first sight. But really, love is developed over time with respect and honor and dignity. Love is developed over time with people that learn to try to support and help each other, to care about each other. To learn about that person enough so that you know what makes them tick and you know what blesses them. And it should be two ways. If it's not two ways, it's not going to work. But if you're whatever your spouse, if you're the husband or the wife, don't look to try to enforce that on the other person. That's got to be something they do of their own volition, of their own accord. You could pray to the Most High to impress them for that, but you need to focus on you learning them and you being help to them and you learning understanding from yourself what you can do. Because when a marriage fails, it takes two to tango, y'all. Always. Always takes two to tango. Now, my mother and father got divorced, obviously. And he used to beat her, definitely. But I want to tell you, there's two sides. I saw both sides, and I don't want to go into it because I don't want to disrespect my mother, but I'm just telling you, there's two sides. There's always two sides. And there's always warnings whether you should be with a person that the Most High gives us. We don't really listen because we all selfish. We want to do what we want to do. That's why we don't hear the warnings when he's trying to tell us. Okay? But take these things in mind. Learn your spouse. Learn what makes them tick. Pray to the Most High for his spirit of wisdom that you could be a real help for them, that you could really help build them up, that you could really make them a better person. A woman that does that will build up a man and he can conquer. He'll go out and conquer the world for you. A husband that does that for a woman, like the Bible say, you present her without spot or wrinkle. She'll end up without spot or wrinkle because of you supporting her like that. Think on these things. Shalom.